We're going to go back to our Sumi ink and bamboo brush and create a scene with the Chinese water buffalo or ox, since it's the year of the ox for 2021. You can start on your practice sketch paper using watercolor if you want to do that first. I'm going to go ahead and start with my Sumi ink today. Make sure you've got your water cup nearby, and then I've got my black Sumi ink and have a paper towel handy as well. First, we're going to look, and these printables are available on the Google Drive if you want to refer to them. You want to think in thirds if you're going to do the full body of the ox. The legs are short, and so then the upper portion where the head is about a third, then the body, and then the legs are another third. And then same thing with the width of the body. So about a third in the back, middle, and then the front, head, and torso. What I'm going to start with is I'm on the bottom of this sheet of rice paper. I want to do a quick kind of outline of the water buffalo without any details. And I like to start with the head here. I'm going to start with the ears, on the top of the head, and then we've got the horns going out. So just these quick brush strokes, and then I'm going to start with this back here. So remember that rule of thirds, then the back rump here, then that back leg, and then the back leg curves out here. Then the tummy, remember the legs are short, so I'm going to have the stomach come down. And then I'm going to do the back leg on the other side here. Notice it's a little bit shorter than the front one because it's behind it. Then for this front leg that's coming out, I want it to kind of sit on the same imaginary line where this leg is. And then the one behind it kind of juts out. And then I'm going to go back and put the rest of the head in, the front with the snout, and then the tail. Kind of 3 spikes going out. And so it's not perfect, and I could go keep practicing. I feel like the head, this part should be a little bit thicker, so I can go back. But you want to try to do it in quick strokes, so the more you practice, then you'll get it down better. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on the head. So I want to do a more close-up of the head and then a profile of the head. So I'm going to do that right here. And I'm going to start with the top of the head. And it's kind of hairy at the top there, so I can fill in some fur. And I'm going to put the 2 eyes in on either side of the forehead. The eyes are fairly large here. Notice how I'm using the tip of my brush to get the detail of the eyes in. Then I'm going to go and put the horn in. And then on the other side, I want to try to match it. And then put those kind of ridges in the horn. They curve along the curve of the horn. And then the 2 ears are underneath the horns. They kind of flop out. And then I'm going to fill in the rest of the head. And it's got that long snout. And then the nostrils are at the end there. And the mouth. And I could kind of fill in some fur. I'm going to add a little bit more water to fill in the edges there. And then fill in some areas along the nose. I may need to practice some more to get the shape. I feel like the eyes are too close together, so If I were to do this again, I would move the eye over to the side more. Now I'm going to do the side view, and I'm going to start with the nose and go up. This is more of a younger ox because the horns are shorter. So this one horn goes out there, and then the one behind it is a little bit smaller. And then that eye goes right under the horn there. And add the mouth. And the ear right under the horn. And then I can add, and you might want to water your brush down some more to add the shadow effects on the face. So I want that to be lighter than the outline. So that's my profile. Then I really should go back and redo that one with the eyes. But I'm going to go ahead and move on, because I want to do one where the ox is in movement. So here it's about to kick out. And see how thick the outline of the body is? So I really want to emphasize that. And I'm going to start at the back this time, because we've got a really strong line in the back. And that back leg curves over, and then the front kind of curves over, and then I'm going to put that tail in the back because I want it to be really strong. And then that back leg curves over to the front. And I don't even have to finish it all. So now I'm going to put my head in, and I can water my brush down more because the head is lighter in color. And put the horn in. There's the nose, and then the legs for the front and the back. Now I'm going to add the hooves. In the back, and then hooves in the front. And then I'm going to wipe some of the water off and get some more India or Sumi ink, because I'm going to put the eyes in, and I want some fine lines, and I really should wait until this is more dry, but I'm going to put my nostril in darker there, and then I'm going to wait a little bit for it to dry a little more to do the eyes with the fine. And you could also use your fine tip Sharpie if you want to do that instead of with your brush. So I'm going to hope this is dry enough so I can put an eye in here. And I'm going to put an eye on here. And there I've got my rough ox or water buffalo, and I can add some grass around it. And I can also write the word for ox, nyo, which is also the word for cow. It's a water cow or water buffalo. And then you could also do a more complete scene like this. So here I'm going to start with my buffalo head down here. And then the horns. And this one, the buffalo's kind of turned, the eyes are looking sideways. And it's got a harness on it. There's the nostrils. Add some hair and shadow. And then I'm going to water down my brush because I want this part to be lighter. So I'm going to fill in the body and the legs with a more watered down ink. So I filled in more of the boy's body, and now I'm going to finish the face. This hair. Get some more ink and less water to do the detail work. So I got too much water on my brush earlier, so that got kind of blobby. And I see I still have too much water on my brush, but I can just fill in the hair there, and I can go back and do more details later, and then I can go and fill in the tree branch above. Now that my ink is dry, I can go in and put some of those details in the face. So I'm going to go in with my Sumi ink, put in an eyebrow, the mouth, the ear, and you could do this with your fine tip Sharpie. So I can just go back and touch up some areas. To put in some more detail. And then I can also add my tree branch. So I'm going to add a little bit more water, and I'm going to start at the top here and put in some kind of zigzaggy . And then I am going to either wash my brush or switch to another brush here and add some watercolor. So if I wanted to add some of those pink blossoms, I can just kind of quickly dot those in along my branches. And so this will give you some more practice for your scrolls that we'll be doing next week. And you can be working on that as well and thinking about what picture illustration you want to do for your story that you chose. And maybe you can use some of these techniques that we learned for that scroll. Now I've added some of those plum blossoms, spattering the pink watercolor along the branches, and the last step I'm going to do is just add a little bit of shadow underneath my ox, and I want it to be really watered down with not a lot of ink, so I'm going to wash some of my ink off of my brush, and just to kind of ground it so it doesn't look like it's floating in space. And now I have a Lunar New Year ox picture to celebrate the Lunar New Year. I also went back and redid my ox head. Remember the first one, the eyes were too close together. So then my second version, I have the eyes more right underneath the horns. So that's really where they need to be, like one on each side under the horn. And then I've got my nostrils and nose and mouth in. And now I'm just going to add, I've watered down my brush. So you want to make sure you wipe off your excess ink and get more water on your brush to do this part. Because I want this part to be lighter. The shadow in the middle of the face and then on the sides under the eyes to define the side of the cow or the ox face there. And so I don't want to do too much either. Then I can go back and I'm going to add some more ink so that I can add those ears in under the horns. And then I can darken some areas. And I think that's a much better version of the ox head than the first one.